I actually wrote this out. And never ever reading off a teleprompter. This is going to be very, very strange. But maybe I'll stop with the ums, a lot of them, because I actually did write it out. It was, see, I'm already doing the ums. So maybe I'll just read it and then we can go from there, and I'll stop where I have to stop. But if I'm looking down, it's because it's right here on the computer. So I've spoken about this a few times, but I haven't articulated it clearly or concisely. Not that I've ever spoken of anything concisely. That's not who I am as a tangent-loving, semi-rambling conversationalist. Anyway, I was watching Steve Shives talking about Star Trek and answering viewer mails. And he had a pretty clear response to people who demanded that he custom tailor his Trek Actually vids to what they wanted to see instead of accepting Steve's vids as he presents them. If you don't like my videos or my hobby or even me, then go watch something else. No, seriously, this isn't directed in any response to my videos. I have far less subscribers and viewers than, say, Steve. So I've been pretty much flying under the radar, and that so appeals to me. I'm responding to the people in my Twitter feed. And most of you who watch my YouTube videos don't know that I have Twitter, because I do keep those two things separate. Just because I wanted something that's not for my hobbies. Actually, I should just read this. My Twitter feed really has nothing to do with any of my hobbies or interests. It's just a place where I get into discussions about my lack of appreciation of those who abdicated their inherent responsibility to the society they live in. Yes, when I write bigger words. But anyway, my Facebook is for my family and friends and for my hobbies and my interests. My YouTube channel, I get to make vids about my family and friends and my hobbies and my interests. And my Flickr channel is there so I can upload pictures about my friends and families and my hobbies and interests. But my Twitter, somehow it's evolved into people who go out of their way to smash their heads against the wall of logic, rationality, and societal responsibility. That's because I talk about logic, rationality, and societal responsibility on my Twitter feed. I support the good work that law enforcement does. I do not support the bad work, obviously, that law enforcement does. I do support the laws and regulations we have in our society that are beneficial to society, not the laws that are not beneficial or conducive of a civil society. And it's not civil in a way that we all have to walk around like 18th century Dickens characters or Jane Austen characters. I'm not talking about that kind of civil society. I'm talking about the civil society where the example, and then this is off my script, but the example that started all this was, I think it was a year or two ago at the beginning of this lockdown, when kids with more money than sense, kids with more time than the ability to work, kids that obviously were not brought up in the same environment that I was. My upbringing was, my parents were very socially and civically active. They were not flower power. They were the generation before flower power in the 60s. They were born in the 40s and raised in the 50s. But they also were not authoritarian. My parents were not spare the rod and spoil the child. I was spanked. I mentioned that in numerous videos or other videos. I was spanked until I was 6 when it stopped really hurting me. My mom said that's not beneficial at all. So she stopped spanking me when I was 6. But, and I was not traumatized by the spanking. At the time, I remember some of the spanks that I got before were legitimate. Not to say that spanking's legitimate, but I erred purposefully and maliciously. And at that time, it was a tool that some parents used to make their kids walk in a better, straighter line. She did stop when I turned 6 because the spanking wasn't doing anything for me. She learned to take away the stuff that I loved, my Lego, my books, time on the TV, whatever. And that helped guide me. And so I don't think there's any fault there. It's what they did in the early 70s. And it wasn't, Dr. Spock came out in 1964, and that book, I can't remember the Dr. Spock's book about child rearing. And I'm not saying that was all bad either. And I'm already going off on tangents. But it was more like, this is what the society did back then overall. There were some of my friends who were not spanked, and that's fine. They turned out just as good as I did, or whatever. People are going to be who they are. But I will say that their upbringing and my upbringing by my parents were to look at your impact on the people in the society around you and try not to be negative. You don't have to be positive. I've mentioned this in other videos. You don't have to be a positive influence on society. You don't have to, run for mayor and clean up town. But you should not, by any stretch, be negative. You should not negatively impact other people and the society and the environment and all that. You do the best you can to be neutral or above, chaotic neutral or above. And that's the way my mom brought me up. And so when I see people littering, I go, littering. What are you doing? Like, you can't spend the extra half a second to put that in a trash can. Like, you're dumb, straight up. I mean, not you're dumb across the board, but you're dumb for not putting the effort and putting that piece of trash in a trash can or where it's supposed to be. People who, and this is where most of my Twitter fights come in, people who maliciously disrupt other people's lives on the highway, in the streets, on the roads. And it all started, again, going back to the beginning of this point of conversation, it all started back when there was a get-together of little-minded, small-minded jackasses, which we'll say, young kids, young punks, we used to call them punks, young punks who have nothing better to do with their time except try to deliberately disrupt other people's lives. They got together in a mall parking lot Sunday night, as kids are prone to do, with their cars that cost in excess of 60, 80 grand, souped up cars like little Nissans and little Hondas. And the most aftermarket parts sold for any vehicle ever is the Honda. Because kids have too much money and they want to soup up their car. Now, I grew up in the 70s when people would buy a Charger and whatever, and they soup it up. They got a Hemi in there or whatever. I'm not a car aficionado, but look, I put I fixed up my 442. My cousin Rick, 1958 pickup truck or whatever year it is. He's been working on it his entire life, and he goes to car shows. I love the car community. I've been to more car shows than a person like me should want to be. I once was casually interested in a girl who made up her own cars. I'm not going to talk about now. I fully support the car community, except for going to a mall parking lot Sunday night after midnight, and you got the houses right across the street and the whole residence right across the street, and your muffler sounds like firecrackers and gunshots. Like, what are you doing? You spent money to deliberately, maliciously, needlessly disrupt other people. Like, there's no other excuse for it. Oh, I like the sound. I don't. This is where I go. This is why I was getting fights on Twitter. Your desires to make yourself happier by having that muffler or lack thereof and removing the catalytic converter and all that stuff, that deliberately disrupts other people's lives. Needlessly. What about construction? What about the airport? What about trains? Look, dude, that's a stupid argument. Straight up. Do you know how well regulated the construction market is? The construction sites are. You cannot make the noise that your muffler was making with all that machinery sitting there, the backhoes and the excavators and the bulldozers and the cranes, whatever. You cannot make, with all those big, huge diesel engines, cannot make the same noise that your muffler was just making. Gunshots, firecrackers, after midnight in a residential neighborhood. Like, grow up, period. Give your head a shake. Do not attack the messenger. Do not attack. There's a regulation, the Highway Traffic Act. It's in the book that you signed for, that you would obey. It's in the HTA, the Highway Traffic Act. When you get your license at 16 or whenever you got it, to have that car, that stupid little Nissan on the road, you signed to get your license. And when you signed for that license, you said you would obey, you would abide with, you would look at and understand the regulations in the HTA. And if you broke them, you risk getting a ticket. That's it. Go ahead and break them, but you're going to get a ticket. You're going to get fined. You're going to get your car impounded, whatever it is. That's just step one. I'll get into the malicious intent and disrupting of other people's lives and all that stuff. But you, with your word, with your signature, said you would abide by the HTA or accept the consequences, and accept the consequences if you didn't. That's the extent of the legal thing that you signed up for. So anyway, so these are discussions I have on Twitter when some OPP or the Halton Police Force, whatever, pulls over a noisemaker. Because what happened is that the communities for the last bunch of years across Canada, but started around here in the Golden Horseshoe, the people started calling their mayor. The people started calling their MP. The people started calling their MPPs, their councillors, whoever they could call, and saying, I can't sleep at night because little Zippy's over there at 3 o'clock in the morning, zipping up and down my little cul-de-sac, my little whatever, going to meet his friends at the mall at 3 o'clock in the morning where they rev their engines and they sound like firecrackers and gunshots. Something has to be done. So the mayor and the councillors call the police forces and they say, hey guys, we have this HTA that's already exists. There's a book called the Highway Traffic Act, and section 78, I think it is, talks about noise and what's the upper limit that you're allowed to make. And these cars are breaking that purposely because these kids spent money to get their cars changed. Like if your muffler falls off your car, oh well, you take it over to shop and you get a new muffler. That's not malicious. That's what happens. Your muffler rots out and you take it over to get yourself a new muffler. Sandy's muffler fell off her car last year. It's a 10-year-old car. Since we're in lockdown, we barely use her car. We use the van for everything, and the van's new, 10 years newer. And what happened was that she was coming to the complex, she hit the speed bump, and the muffler broke from the exhaust pipe before it. So the straight engine noise coming right out the exhaust pipe sounded pretty loud. And if I were to jump on the gas with the muffler severed off the buff, it would make that much noise. It would sound like gunshots and firecrackers. But I would actually have to maliciously do that because I drove her car from our driveway to the shop, which is a bunch of blocks across town. I didn't rev the engine. I didn't suddenly accelerate. I didn't jump the lights. I didn't do it. Sandy was driving behind me in the minivan, our other van. The window was down. She goes, did you fix the muffler before we left the house? I go, no. No, I didn't. Like, you can drive a car without a muffler and still keep it relatively quiet as long as you don't be stupid about it. And so if you go out and buy one of those aftermarket mufflers, those little tin cans, though, whatever you want to call it, noisemakers, you are doing that deliberately and you're going above the threshold of the HTA. And yes, the HTA, the cops have discretion, because if you're driving on 1 o'clock in the morning making this noise as opposed to 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you whine about it, anyway, that's far too far. Anyway, so I start, hey, OPP, hey, Alton Police, thank you for making our streets quieter. So then I get all these fallacious responses from these noisemaker communities saying, oh, you're against the car community. No, I've been to more car shows than you will ever be to. Like, no, I love the car community. I won't do it myself. It's not my chosen hobby. I've used to work on my pickup trucks back in the day and help buddies fix their stuff up, but I don't care. I take my to the shop, let them fix it. I just want to drive here, go to work, go have some fun, go up to Westfield, whatever. I just want to hang around. The car is a tool. It's an implement. It's to get me from point A to point B, and that's it. I have no love for my ride. I have no hate for my ride, just like my steak knife. Don't care. It's for me eating steak. That's the tool that I need to eat my steak. That car is a tool for me to get my Lego stuff to a Lego show. My car is to get the wood that we just got from Home Depot home so I can build my back deck, so I can build this room. The car is utility to me now. Don't get me wrong. I love seeing a wonderful car. Oh, that guy put effort into that. When I used to go to the parking lot over here, where all these little kids with no minds and big egos and whatever hanging out, There's some other people. The guy had a 58 Chevy there. Oh, he said, yeah, I got this off my granddad and blah, blah, blah. I've been tinkering in the shop and he repainted it and this is what he did. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And he's going, what he changes? Those people who make lowriders, oh, fantastic. You put effort into it. I can see you put effort into it. I like how it looks. It's nice. The paint job, primo. But if you sound like gunshots and firecrackers, you're an idiot. Like, there's no other way around it. You're dumb. Anyway, so I started yipping back and forth with these people who have no minds, low information, and just want to talk about fallacies and their desires to disrupt other people's lives and try to justify it. Oh, the ambulances make more noise than I do. Really? Yeah. Okay. Ambulance, siren. Define how that's needless. Go ahead. Go ahead. Define how that's not already an exception in the HTA. Fire trucks, police cars. Go ahead. Like, if your grandmother was being taken to the hospital in an ambulance, you think they shouldn't have a siren going? You think so? You think that's needless? Like the sophomoric responses that I get from these people is just absolutely astoundingly, it boggles the mind how they can even drive a car when they try to justify their noisemakers. And usually, as I found out just by being on this whole thread on Twitter for the last year and a half, when a cop pulls over a noisemaker, there's other issues such as guns. Because if you're willing to break one law, because you can't be stupid, you can't be naive by saying, if I remove my muffler, I'm not breaking a law. Are you kidding me? If you go to bed thinking that you're not breaking the law by removing a muffler, putting an aftermarket muffler on your car that sounds like gunshots and firecrackers, do you think that's legal? So you know it's illegal. If you're tinkering on a car, if you have the capability of modifying your car by putting these noisemakers on, you obviously know something. You know how to modify a car. Right? So you know you're breaking a law. And if you're willing to break a law, why wouldn't you be willing to break more laws? And this is the other argument that I have with these guys. So I'm not saying every noisemaker has broken more laws. I'm saying statistically, there's a higher number of people breaking laws, other laws, gun running, illegal guns, illegal drugs, drug trafficking, even a few spousal abuse, like girls in the car that don't want to be there. All abuse, whatever, not kidnapping, but the other ones were skipping bail. A couple guys. There's I got in this huge debate with this one guy, and I forget what the actual HTI reg is, but it's failure of responsibility or whatever. You're out on bail, and the bail is contingent on you not breaking any more laws, right? And you're in a noisemaker with guns. Oh, but he shouldn't have been pulled over because it's just noisemaker. Okay, wait a minute. You're justifying that the cop shouldn't have stopped him in the first place because of the noisemaker, which is breaking a reg. And when the cop pulls him over, he sees a gun in the back seat. And this guy is already out on bail for other things that he did before, that he was arrested for and convicted of or whatever. And he's out on personal recognizance, whatever, saying that he will not break any more laws. So noisemaker, guns, like it's astoundingly stupid. And I'm going to bring up this one other point. Kids who modify their cars for noisemaking will lower the cars, change the panels, wrap their cars, put stuff in their windshield, and cover their brake lights, like paint their brake lights black. So no brake lights against the HTA. They'll take out the washer reservoir, like the window washer, against the HTA. They'll remove the horn. Wait, what is that? HTA violation. They will have the tires rubbing against body panels because they lower it so much against the HTA. They like it's like it's astounding what they do to the car. Obstruct the windshield, HTA, like everything. And so they say, oh, but we're being safe. Our cars are safer than your cars. Bullshit. Sorry for swearing. Bullshit. Your car, your little modified noisemaker, is safer than my Dodge Caravan. Like, there's no flippin' way that your nose, if you in your little garage out back modifying your muffler is safer than my car, you're living in a la la land, straight up. There's not a single reg I'm breaking right now. I'm not saying all regs in the HTA are about safety, but there's no way that you modifying and tinkering with your car, taking out the washer fluid, taking out the horn, covering over your brake lights, blocking your windshield, having your tires rubbing against your panels, safer than my minivan. You're an idiot. Anyway, so I get into this conversation, and so they don't like me pointing out their flaws, their fallacious arguments, their erroneous arguments, their disingenuous arguments. And so they go looking for me on other platforms. They go looking at my YouTube channel. And I'm actually completely off script now. They go looking, oh, this guy plays with Lego. Oh, look at the little doofus playing with Lego. Really? Your argument for you breaking the law maliciously, deliberately, needlessly, and illegally breaking the law, and you think my point's invalid because I play with Lego? Really? That's your comeback? You stalked me online and you found out that I like Lego at my age? Well, whip-de-doo, dude. Like, wow, making fun of my hobby, that's not illegal, that's not disruptive, that's not needless to me, that's not malicious to anybody, and you think that this is a valid criticism of your stupidity, of your low information, of your want, your desire, your clear abdication of your social and your social responsibility to all the people around you. Firecrackers, gunshots after midnight in a residential neighborhood. Deal with it. Justify that. Don't try to make fun of my hobby. My hobby is not illegal. It's not disrupting people in the neighborhood. It's not gunfires. It's not firecrackers. Like, dude. And yet they think this is a winner. So anyway, I'm going to try to get back on my script now. But yeah, it gets into it. So my Flickr channel was also for me to upload pictures of my family, friends, and my hobbies. But my Twitter was somehow evolved into people who go out of their way to smash their heads against the wall of logic, rationality, societal responsibility. That last one's the important part. Societal responsibility, something my parents instilled in me. Look at my actions and how it's impacting people around you. If I'm going out there taking my baseball bat and smashing windows, people's cars, I think that's bad. That's not being responsible to the people around me. If I crank my stereo with 5 billion watts and blare it at 1 o'clock in the morning, do you think the police wouldn't be at my door in 10 minutes? Like, do you think so? Like, we had, go off on this tangent, we had an issue with our neighbors for 8 years. For 8 years. And we had the police here a lot, not just because of us, because the other neighbors, it's not just me, but the other neighbors too, and the condo board, and the lawyers, and the property management team. 8 years of putting up with an owner of a house next door. And the way they were malicious, disruptive, and all the other things that we're talking about here. And the bylaws that were on the city bylaws, the provincial bylaws, our condo bylaws, and just societal responsibility, they're gone now. Bye-bye, neighbors. They're gone now. A judge ordered, straight up, judge ordered them to sell their house. They weren't renters, ordered them. Forced sale because of the society stood up against them. Because we said to them, you cannot go around disrupting other people's lives maliciously, needlessly, illegally. You can't do it. It's not a valid way of living your life. If you want to go out in the country somewhere and buy 50 acres and drop your house right smack dab in the center, knock yourself out, make as much noise as you want. Go ahead. On private property, that's not bugging anybody else. Knock yourself out. If you want to take your noisemakers and go to the track, Mohawk, Flamborough, Merrittville, wherever you want to go, there's a million tracks around here. Private property, the HTA doesn't apply. The HTA does not apply to private property. The second my car's in my driveway, doesn't matter what it does to the HTA. It matters what it does to the bylaws, like these people next door. That matters. The bylaws, noise-making bylaws, they're on the books. so go ahead, take the muffler off your car at the racetrack. Bomb around to your heart's content. You can't go to the racetrack, buy yourself 100 acres somewhere and make your own racetrack. But if you're in a residential neighborhood with 150 houses and lots of families and people who have to shift work and families and kids getting up in the morning, whatever, and you're bombing around at 3 o'clock in the morning with mufflers that sound like gunshots and firecrackers, you've abdicated. Clearly do not care about your responsibility to society. Therefore, society has every right, every single right to say, you're stopping that. And the easiest thing they can do is just give you a ticket. Right now, they might be changing a lot, but right now, you get a ticket. I don't know what the fine is, because I don't have a noisemaker, but you get a ticket, and then they get on here and they start whining, wait, I'm a Karen, I got a ticket for making noise. Those are the backhoes are making noise? Really? A backhoe is making gunshots and firecrackers? Not the last time I checked. Lawnmowers on Saturday mornings. I'm trying to sleep on a Saturday morning. Yeah, because you're up all Friday night disturbing your neighborhood with your stupid car that you paid money to make stupid. That's how the, hey, here's money. Here, take my money. Make my car stupid and illegal. And so you start whining, oh, I could get mad at the guy with the lawnmower. Yeah, at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday? No, you can't. Now, if the lawnmower didn't have a muffler on it, you could actually, because there's a bylaw. There's a noise bylaw. If the lawnmower is making too much noise, then absolutely, you can actually call the cops on them. Neighbors. not the mower, but just the screaming and yelling. But anyway, back to the script. Excuse me. But my Twitter somehow it's evolved into people who go out of their way to smash their heads against a wall of logic, rationality, and societal responsibility. So be it. The issue is that some of these low information intelligentsia take the lowest of low roads by finding my YouTube and Flickr channels and making fun of my chosen hobbies. As if that fallacious response somehow makes their argument, as if we can apply that word to their demonstrably erroneous. See, I write the big words, I can't actually pronounce the big words. Their demonstrably erroneous diatribe. I've been bullied before. I talked about this in other videos. I've been bullied before. I've been a Lego loving, the scrolling's not working. I've been a Lego loving, Star Trek adoring, computer lab living, sci-fi reading geek basically my entire life. It's fundamental to who I am. I'm a geek, and I've never, I don't even get into the Trekkie versus Trekker, don't care. I mean, but I will get into minutiae of, is the Star Trek in the original series the same Star Trek in the motion picture? Because it was refitted, but really? In universe, was it? But I can get into that because I am a geek. For the most part, I've been extremely comfortable with who I am, who I was, and who I am today. But over my early years, high school, there were others, a few others, who seemed to gravitate towards geeks like me and tried to assert superiority. It's what happened. And for the most part, I never cared. There are just one or two instances in my high school career that stick out in my mind. But again, it's relegated to whatever. Truly didn't care. Yes, I remember it happening. I remember the event. I also remember going home after school, turning on my Commodore 64 and playing Fort Apocalypse till I went to bed. Or building with my Lego collection. I made, with Pete and Jake, we were in high school, like halfway through high school when we made Lego Wars. You thinking that these bullies prevented? No, like, didn't care. Like, hey Dave, you play with Lego? Yeah, I got your beer money. You give me your Lego, thank you. Like, I win, because by the weekend you're gonna be, not to get into this graphic, you're gonna be pissing out that beer, and I still to this day have your Lego right here. 40 years, I have your Lego right here. You won't remember that beer that you gave me, I gave you beer money for. It's right here. So have at it. This is that Dave, you're playing with Lego in high school. I'm playing with Lego 54. So whatever. Not once in my life did I ever think that I was somehow less than or wasn't measuring up to others. Never have, because of my chosen hobbies, or more importantly, who I was. I'm videotaping, Josh. Anyway, you know what my other hobbies are? I go scuba diving. Is that a geeky sport? I don't think so. I never equated scuba diving, Jacques Cousteau, donning the rubber suit and descending into the depths. I never considered that to be a geeky. I don't consider Lego to be a geeky hobby, but in reality it is. Or watching Star Trek, yeah, it's definitely geeky. But scuba diving, I've gone on more dives than most people have in their lives. Entirely. Now, there are more passionate divers than I am, straight up. I met a few over at the dive shop in Burlington who I adore, that are passionate about diving. I love diving. I've loved diving since I put a tank in my back when I was 14. My dad was a diver. He was a chief instructor. He loved diving too. I don't dive now for obvious reasons, but other reasons, it's tough. It's tougher for me now to get that stuff. I've had some medical issues. So I'm a little more concerned now about my diving. And I don't have anybody to dive with. Like, diving is a partner sport. And, you know, I have a few divers, but they're passionate and they're go, go, go. And I'm not a go, go, go diver. I put on my suit, putter around, put my fins on, harass some fish, go into the depths, and 20, half an hour later, I come up. Hey, done. Right? That's my whole diving career. Oh, we have to go here, we have to go there, go. No, I take my time. That's the kind of diver I am. I also woodwork. Are you kidding? I built every room in this house. we've modified, even this beam up here. Like, I got a huge wood shop in the garage. I play with power tools. I can do anything besides engineered stuff. I do electrical, I do woodworking, I do drywalling. Not the best drywaller, as you can probably just write down. Drywalling is not my forte, or painting, but I'll do everything else. I rewired this entire house. Me. I have no certifications, but because it's my house, I'm allowed to. The only thing I didn't do was the actual fuse panel. I moved in, there was a fuse panel here, and I got my buddy to come over and drop a breaker panel in, right? But I've done basically everything else. I made this house, it was 1974, it had aluminum wiring, and I did my research and figured out how to get aluminum to copper, and with the right morettes and the right goop and blah, blah, because I was concerned because all my plugs and switches were copper-rated plugs and switches, and I wasn't going to go convert them to aluminum. So in 2000, so I put the right pigtails on, blah, blah. I did it all. I've dropped the pony panel in the garage because I did it all myself. Ran it down to the fuse panel here, and I got 220 out in the garage. So that's what I do, right? We made the kitchen bigger. We made the living room bigger. I had to get my uncle in for the LVL because, again, that's engineering now. I had to take out the load-bearing wall, and I could have done it, but I'm not that guy. I don't have ego. Oh, look what I did. No. Hey, come on over. You've done this for 60 years now. Come on over. Tell me what I need. I'll call, get the beam. Come on over for 3 hours, and he puts the beam in. We help. Done. But everything else, like, I garden. I was in Algonquin Park 2 weeks on my own with a canoe. You think I'm a geek? You come with me. I'm 54 now. You at 30 in your stupid little car that costs more money than sense. Let's go out to Algonquin Park for 2 weeks. I'm not saying I'm, what's his name? I forget it. We loved watching him. Survivor Man. I'm not him, but I was a Boy Scout for a long time, and I can hold my own out in the forest. Right? Nobody else felt. That's a joke. Dude, disparage me all you want, like, whatever. I'm not here to compare. I won't finish that sentence because this is a family show. Not once in my life did I ever think I was somehow less than or wasn't measuring up to others because of my chosen hobbies, or more importantly, who I was. That's not to say I haven't done some introspection over my life about who I was and what I wanted from my life. I've done some pretty hardcore soul searching over my years. I think it's a necessity for people to inspect the foundations, again, to borrow from another one of my hobbies, construction and woodworking, to keep yourself centered and comfortable with who you are, where you are along your life's path. How am I impacting other people and the community I live in? Like, that's always my parents instilled in me when I was a little kid. How am I impacting on other people? I could be a selfish prick and say, screw the rest of you, and do stuff that's negative to you. But I can't think anything that's negative to you that's going to be ultimately positive for me. That's the whole thing. Because again, not to get back to these noisemakers, if you're willing to drive around a neighborhood at 1 o'clock in the morning with your tin can muffler that sounds like gunshots and firecrackers, and so are other people, you are going to get a job at some point. Like, unless your dad's inheritance is like giving you stupid money now, it's going to give you even more stupid money. You don't have to go to work. But at some point, you're going to probably have to go to work. And there's going to be kids out there with their noisemakers and disrupting you straight up. Anyway. And to borrow from one of my favorite science, well, actually it is my favorite science fiction of all time. It's not Star Trek, believe it or not. Star Trek's the way of life. It's not science fiction. And to borrow from my favorite science fiction of all time, who am I and what do I want? As a person a few years on the other side of the half-century mark, I think it's important that I know the answers to these questions, at least in a general sense, and at least by now. If you don't know who you are and what you want past 50, anyway, first, I think it'll save me from a midlife crisis, which it has so far, where I have an overwhelming need to recapture my youth by buying a sports car or what have you. Thus far, I've managed to avoid the feelings of, oh, the walls are closing in on my youth is waning and I didn't get to do all the things I wanted to do. I've done all the things I wanted to do in my youth. And again, this is odd. Like, I don't drink. I do not drink. I've never been a drinker. I've had a few in my life. I'm not saying zero alcohol's been in this body. No, I've had a few drinks. I basically gave it up when I turned 19. That's a whole other story. I've lived a life without drinking. Like, oh man, that was such a wild party. My friends said, oh, that was such a wild party, and we got drunk and had such a blast. I had the blast without the drinking. So, Oktoberfest, many years. We could go, that's a whole other story. Anyway, more importantly, however, I still have things I want to do, but I want to do that as who I am today and who I will be in the future. What I want today, I don't have a need to revisit my youth. I lived it. I loved it. I got the t-shirt. And life goes on. Which brings me to the other point. It doesn't matter. Is this thing working? Which brings me to the other point. To another point. It doesn't matter to me if someone else hates or admonishes or belittles me or what I do or what I love. Unless you bring a cogent argument or bring facts that I'm causing harm, I don't care at all about your negative opinion of me. Who are you? Anyway, I can that up later. As I said above, I'm pretty comfortable with who I am and what I'm doing. It's my life, not yours. If you're not happy with me or what I'm doing, that's your issue, not mine. If you find that belittling me or my hobbies is a great response in a discussion about traffic law on Twitter, you clearly have no idea what a logical argument is or how to make a cogent point. Straight up. You proved my point every single time. Every time. Oh, Dave plays with Lego. Don't listen to him. You don't have to listen to me, but it's not because of Lego. That's a non sequitur fallacy. Look it up. Look up fallacies. I'm not a fallacy expert, but I've read enough and I've went to university for a while. A fallacious argument doesn't aid your cause. If you have a problem with me pointing out your noisemaker ideas, that it's a good thing and that you should be able to do it because it's your hobby and we're interfering in your hobby, dude, needless, deliberate, malicious, illegal. 4 things. Pick any one of them, or all 4 of them, in order to refute them. And if you can refute them, go change the frickin' law. On the books right now, on our books right now, there is a procedure, a policy and procedure to change the laws. It's built into the system. Straight in, you can change our laws. The QEW when I was a little kid was 70 miles an hour. I remember this. I wasn't driving. I was only 6. But the QEW was 70 miles an hour. When we went to metric in 1970, whatever, and the speed limits went to kilometers per hour, there was also a gas crisis in the world, OPEC, and the whole other history. If you look in the early 70s about the oil crisis, whatever. So they reduced, because, and it's proven, any kilometers above 100, you waste more gas. You're pushing the air harder. So it wastes more gas to drive faster than 100 kilometers. Of course, it wastes as soon as you move the car. But from 0 to 10 is different than from 100 to 110, with how much gas you waste by pushing through the air. So anyway, so they reduced, because 70 miles an hour is like 120, right? Kilometers. I don't know it exactly, but 70 miles an hour is not 100 kilometers an hour. 60 miles an hour is 100 kilometers an hour. So they went from 70 miles an hour to 100 kilometers an hour, which is a reduction of 10 miles per hour, because again, 60 miles an hour is 100. So they did that in the early 70s because of the crisis. So the speed limits didn't change. The speed limits changed then in 1970, whatever, early 70s, and they didn't change at all. And I remember growing up and people, oh, we used to be able to drive 70 miles an hour, and now we can't. We have to only drive 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. Wham. It's like, what's his name? Who made that? I can't drive 55. Idiot. Straight up idiot. I don't care how famous you are, how big a rock star you are. You are an idiot. If you think your libertarian nature doesn't think that traffic laws are important for safety, security, integrity, and just the overall well-being of your society, you're dumb. Straight up. We have speed limits for a frickin' reason. Oh, the Autobahn. That was the other one that I got into with these guys. The Autobahn, which has no upper speed limit. Yeah, it's Germany, very, very small community. They have X number of miles of road, and you can do whatever speed you want on them. They're built that way. You try to do 300 kilometers an hour along the 403. Go ahead. Well, I'm not telling you to, because it's a stupid thing to do. Our highways from Windsor to Cornwall are not designed for 300 plus kilometers an hour. They're not. None of it does. You can, this little stretch between Chatham and whatever. Oh, that you get straight. Oh, okay. For a few miles, you can go 300 kilometers an hour. Are you stupid? Anyway, so where is it going with this? We have these laws for a reason. Anyway, attacking the person because you can't disprove a cogent argument they made shows a lack of anything substantive from you. You have nothing of substance. You have absolutely nothing to contribute rationally to the conversation. If I come at you with your noisemaker and you got pulled over and you got a ticket and you're, I hate you, PP, dude, this malicious, disruptive, needless, and illegal. Don't like any of those? Go change the law. Oh, Dave, you play with Lego. That's a response to that argument? Like, what is that? You need to fix that. That's all on you. You came up with no argument. There's Josh. You came up with no argument to contradict the I won't say flawless, because I'm sure there's flaws in the argument, but you haven't brought a reason why my argument's flawless. You need to fix that, not me. And this brings up the next point. I'm going on my walk through life, and I mentioned this a few times in other videos. I'm going through my walk through life, and I'm pretty comfortable along my trip. Do I make mistakes? Do I make mistakes? Obviously, everybody.
Everybody makes mistakes.
And there are a great many people along my path to help me fix my mistakes, and are there when I fail. I use the term great in both contexts here, both in number and in stature. At least to me, my friends and family, great number. I got 32 uncles and aunts, a lot of cousins. So, great number, but more importantly, great in how awesomely wonderful they are. And I love having them in my life, because my family and friends are pretty good at not couching their lack of, or their pointing out where people fail, including me. And I take it willingly. I say, oh yeah, that was a mistake. That was a misstep of me. No, I don't get my back up. If I do something stupid, I want to point it out. I don't want to keep on going through like, oh, look what I'm doing here. I'm colorblind, so that doesn't help. But if I'm doing something wrong and it's hurting other people, somebody should point that out to me for sure. And so I don't keep on doing that wrong. So do you think, as a random person on the internet that I don't know at all, are going to say anything any insult, any fallacy, any disingenuous and erroneous yippage that will affect me in any discernible way beyond making my point very clear that you can't make a cogent argument? No. Do you think that because you don't like my Lego building hobby and disparage it, that I'm going to stop and think, well, random blackguard on the internet thinks my hobby is bad. I'm so admonished. I'm so ashamed. I'll give it up today. No. Look, I sat beside people in high school that would make, not fun, but they would, snide remarks. Oh, Dave plays with Lego. I mean, we were 13, 14, 15. If they couldn't, and I knew them, they're sitting right there, and I knew who their parents were, and I knew who their brothers and sisters were. You think you, random stranger on the internet, are going to say anything to me that's going to, after 50 years of this? No, like, go away. You do know I build, okay, so this is, I don't brag about this, hardly ever. That's pretty cool, David.
Yeah.
But I used to partake in robot competitions. And it's never been one of these, oh, look at me. But anyway, so I'm going to read this because it's the one point that I'm not happy with the paragraph, but I think the point has to be made. Do you think that because you don't like my Lego building hobby and disparage it, then I'm going to, okay, read that one. You do know that I built robots. You do know that. You go in my Twitter, my YouTube feed, and you go back at the beginning of my YouTube, back 12 years ago. You do know that I built robots and entered robot competitions with engineers, mechanical, electrical, all those guys, and people with PhDs in rocket science. I competed with people with that ring. I competed with scientists. I competed with anybody at all. And it wasn't like, oh, look at that. But I beat them. I mean, it was just using the RCX and like Lego, but and they can talk circles around me about all the stuff they know about, right? Because they're smart PhD, whatever, university grads and thesis proving people, like, but they play the Lego. Smart people, smarter than me, or you, Mr. Random Guy on the internet who thinks that you have a noisemaker and that somehow gives you power to admonish people for defending society. Anyway, those people who work on massive structures and rockets and everything else, they're my friends and my family. So you do know that I do shows and interact with the public and bring happiness to a great many people. Go on my YouTube channel. We do shows in public where there's people 3, 4, 10 people deep. Yes, kids, lots of kids, but parents of kids, and we spend like literally tens of minutes talking about this, and they remember their youth, and we have wonderful conversations. And the old people in the HO trains, like these people who have been making train sets their entire lives, and they're 70, 80 years old, and mechanical and all that stuff. We get together where we have this hobby that brings us together and bring lots of happiness and joy to, like, if you're going to attack somebody who has a Lego collection, why aren't you attacking clowns at a circus? I mean, they're just clowns. Clowns are for kids. Why aren't you getting somebody's face when they're 50 and making clown costumes? Like, like, have some rational sense. Anyway, you random stranger on the internet disparaging me because I called you out on your willful disregard for the safety of those around you. Who are you to me? Nobody. Beyond giving me fodder for this video, I don't even remember who you are. I don't remember any of the names now. I don't care. But this is where this video is coming from. So I'm on this walk through life. If there are those of you out there who appreciate what I do and what I like, what I'm posting here, I love to hear from you. I love discussions and talking about the intricacies of our chosen hobbies, diving, Lego, woodworking, hanging out with like 12-year-olds. Yeah.
On YouTube, you get to monetize.
I'm not monetized. It doesn't matter to me. I love discussions and talk about the intricacies of our chosen hobby. I love being around others and helping out, collaborating, and generally just having a good time with others who also have the appreciation of the things that I have appreciation for. I love scuba diving. I haven't done it in a while, but I love diving, and I love to talk about the intricacies of diving. I've dove, I think. Have I been in all the Great Lakes? I've been in most of them. I filled up 2 logbooks before I, stopped to even bother posting my logbook. But anyway, woodworking. I'll talk about woodworking if you want to talk about woodworking. But anyway, in the end, this is one of my hobbies. It's a hobby that I love, and I've obviously spent some time on it because you can check out my YouTube channel. It's a hobby that I will keep on loving. If you don't have the same appreciation, there's a whole world of other things out there for you. You don't need to be here with me. You really don't. You're not doing me a favor by hanging out at a place where you're not happy or appreciative. A number of people who watch my videos here, the number of people who follow me on Twitter, the number of likes that I get on Flickr doesn't mean anything to me. The numbers don't matter to me. I'd rather have a few close and dear friends along with me on my walk through life than thousands of people who I don't know, and some of whom would just want to disparage because they think their opinion should mean something to me. Anyways, this is a long, totally drawn out way for me to agree with Steve Shives on YouTube. Don't like what I say or do, please go somewhere else. Please just go away. He said it with a little more profanity, but that's not who I am. So, oh, you brought me a lemon.
No, that's lemonade.
Oh, it's empty. I don't have any water. I had water.
Do you want me to go grab water?
Nah, that's fine. I'm going to say bye now. Are you going to say bye?
Bye.
And yes, this was a little bit long, 50 minutes, but I think it had to be clearly said. I want people to hang out with me because they want to hang out with me. We're going, Josh and I and Sandy, we're going on our little walk here together. People can come in if they want to walk. I'm not a leader, straight up. Never wanted to be a leader. Not a follow either. I don't follow anybody.
No, it's 51 minutes.
51 minutes. I don't follow. I don't lead. I am going on my walk the way I want to go my walk. If it's good,
Follow your dreams.
exactly. If it's good, then I'm still going to walk this way. If it's bad, point out why it's bad with a reasonable, rational, cogent argument. If it's just because you just don't like what I do, go away. Because it means nothing to me. Other than that, what else do we have to say?
Nothing.
Come along with us if you want.
Yeah.
Reply to this video if you want. If you don't want to reply to this video, don't reply to this video.
Like and subscribe.
No, see, that's the whole thing. I doesn't. Okay, like and subscribe. I don't want this thing to get to the point where it's monetized. This is for my friends. This is for my family. This is for people who have the like-minded stuff. Go follow Beyond the Brick. Go follow those guys that have huge YouTube channels because that's what they want to do. I want to keep it small and containable and understandable, and with all my hobbies, they are mine, and I conduct myself, I think, in a good manner for all of them. And if you think I'm not, go find somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cough now because I don't have any water. Stay safe, take care, wear a mask because that's the other thing that I got into with a few people. Wear a mask and keep socially distant, and
Have a good day.
Have a good day. We're going.